Welcome to this edition of Sports. Today we are at the Stade de Suisse in the capital city of Bern to see what is at stake for the young boys who are taking part in their first UEFA Champions League this season. We talked to young boys CEO Wanja Greuel on what it takes to tackle the top teams in Europe and what this could mean for the future of Swiss football. Young Boys is a bit the surprise guest in this Champions League 2018-2019. How much of a boost is it for the club?
It's incredible for us. It's the first time that we can compete with the best clubs in Europe, and it's for us a big honor to have teams like Manchester United, Juventus Turin and Valencia in our stadium, so it's a big thing for us.
It's also an economic boost, right?
Yeah, I mean the money that is distributed by the UEFA is big. We have been in the European League for a few times, in the Europa League, but now Champions League, of course, is a big thing.
We're talking for an initial 20 million euros. How will you use this money? Acquire new players for the next season?
We will be very conservative with that extra income because the football business is a difficult business. The income can change and vary very much every year. So we also had some hard years in the past. So most of it, by far most of it, we will keep aside for the worse years that are coming at some point for sure.
Young Boys is in a tough group. You have one of the favorite teams, Juventus, and they're betting everything on Cristiano Ronaldo to win the Champions. How do you see the other squads in your group?
I mean, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo is a big name and Juventus Turin is a big club, but Manchester United as well is one of the biggest clubs in the world, and Valencia plays a really attractive and a strong offensive football, so it's obvious that we are the outsiders in the group.
Let's talk about the Young Boys players and their salaries. You have a new system in place, which is lower salaries but big bonuses in case of victory. What's the strategy there?
I mean, I think in general in economy, in the normal economy as well as in the sports business, it is important that the most important employees, that's our players, can participate when you're successful, but also in the hard years when you don't have the sportive success, which is tremendous important for the business success as well. Then they have to carry their part of that cake as well.
This is a system that works. I mean, are the players more motivated? Do they play better with this new system in place?
I wouldn't say that because I think the ground motivation is the same. We look very strong on the characters of our players, that they are hungry young players that are motivated to win the game, and I don't think they will be extra motivated by money. But then on the other hand side, there's an extra bonus if you're successful, like we have been in the past, and I think it's important that we have our cost structure in our hands, and that has been a good success in the last 2 years. Let's
talk about Swiss football now. Young Boys are having a great season debut. You're 10 points ahead from the runner-up. We're ready to dominate the Swiss football?
I wouldn't say so because Basel has been dominating the Swiss football for so many years. They've been champion and champion and champion. I can't count how many times. We've just been champion for the first time after 32 years. That's a great success for our club. But we are very modest and of course success tastes really sweet, so we want to repeat it. And so far we compete very well in the league, but it's a long way.
So what is the difference now that you're playing at the top in Swiss football, but also at the Champions? It's a lot to manage. Does it change anything comparing to previous years, or are you in the same spirit?
No, I mean, obviously it gives us some new opportunities because now we have financial stability that we haven't had in the past. But we always have to see, like if we consider the clubs in Switzerland, FC Basel is the biggest club. They have been competing the Champions League for so many years. They could make such big transfers. So they're still from the financial power, they are still ahead. And I'm sure also that in the winter break, they will strengthen their team with good players.
Do you look at their model to do the same? Is it like an objective to reach this level?
No, I mean they have had a tremendous success in the past, but we look at our own strategy. We have our clear strategy with our sports director Christoph Spiecher, who is really successful with that the last 2 years. And I think we have been really good with looking at our own problems, and we just try to be as best as we can, and then we see what is the result.
Match fixing is back in the spotlight following the inquiries in Belgium and France last October on the 10th and 12th respectively. Do clubs here in Switzerland and governing bodies, I mean, we have FIFA and UEFA in Switzerland, do they take the issue seriously, in your opinion?
I think yes. I think yes. There's lots of mechanisms. There's lots of people taking care about that. But unfortunately, it is a business where there's a lot of money involved, and when there's a lot of money involved, there's also the temptation for some people, to misuse the system, like we've seen now maybe in Belgium. Also, I don't know the details, but I'm quite sure that they do the best that they can, and so that's also, I think it's a success that what happened now in Belgium came to the surface, so that others will think about twice whether they do it.
But do Swiss clubs do enough to prevent it, in your opinion?
I can only talk for us. I'm also a member of the committee of the Swiss Football League, and yes, we do a lot there. We try to control, but also to help the clubs to run a clear and clean business. And we have a really good referee system as well in Switzerland. So I'm quite sure about that. We do the best we can.
Is this the same scenario that we saw in France and other countries? Could this be something that is happening here as well, or?
It's always a big thing to say, no, it can't happen, because there are so many leagues, so many players involved, so many parties involved. But I think where the risk is the highest, that the control mechanisms are very strong.
So the risk is not that high in Switzerland?
I wouldn't say.
We also had another unusual situation recently against the FC Basel game on September 23rd, when we had this fan protest throwing tennis balls and console controllers on the pitch to protest the investment of Swiss clubs in eSports. What's your take on that?
We have Roger Federer here, so maybe they just wanted to express their gratitude for that great sportsman. No. I can understand the culture of some of the hardcore fans, like we call them sometimes. So far, nothing has been decided. So far, nothing has been done also from our club. So at the moment, it's a bit early to talk about that topic.
It's not in your plans to invest in esports, or?
We haven't figured out our plans in that area. Esports is a big phenomenon in the whole world. It's a big business as well. But it's not only about business. It's about target groups, about like finding a way to attract young people to your club, and we are analyzing the situation, but so far no decision has been taken.
If we compare Swiss and European football, what's the thing that Swiss club needs to catch up with the rest of Europe?
If you consider the big leagues like Germany, England, France, Italy, Spain, there's nothing. We can't compete with those leagues. We can't compete with those businesses. It's the difference, like if you just consider the TV money which is around in England compared to Switzerland, it's a factor of 100, so it's 100 times more. So we really can't. And when we lost here to Manchester United, I mean, Paul Pogba probably earns more than our whole team together. So it can't be our goal to compete with those leagues. No.
But what is it? It's the money we invest that is not enough? I mean, we're too small to compare ourselves to them?
Yeah, it's like, after all, football also is an economy, and there's market rules as well. And we know, like Paul Pogba, for example, to talk about him, he's a global star, and people know him in Asia, they know him in the States, and people in China, they want to see Real Madrid playing Manchester United. They don't want to see playing young boys against Lucerne. So that's a market, and there's so much money involved. I mean, the budget of those clubs is more than 10 times bigger than ours. So obviously it's very hard for us to compete, but we have made it to the Champions League, and now we also want to win the first points.
And we're not the first club. 5 in all have already competed at the Champions League level. So this is something that Switzerland cannot. We really have no chance to reach that level.
No, we have a chance to reach that level with the top 32 teams.
But bring the biggest stars in our country, it's not possible.
No, and it will be always harder to get into the Champions League. But then, as you see, also like Basel had tremendous success. But to compete with those teams, to win games, it is. I wouldn't say it's impossible. I mean, if you see Leicester City, also they became a champion in the Premier League 2 years ago. But it is very, very difficult. Yes.
And given the turnover in other countries, like we were saying, France, England, Spain, could Switzerland ever compete with those nations, given the out-of-control investments that we're talking about? At the European level, this is a money that we would never be able to spend.
No, I mean, if you look at the small, it's also in those leagues, it's an incredible difference. Also, if you take Germany, Bayern Munich and SC Freiburg, we could probably, in a really great year, and Freiburg has a really bad year, maybe we are somewhere close to their budget. But if you take the average, no, there's no chance that we compete with those budgets. That means we have to be smarter than the others. And what we all know that our league is a talent league, so we want to develop talents, give them the chance to grow here, and then do the next step in their career to go in the big leagues.
So that's the strategy, be
That
smarter.
Yeah, and it's a clear strategy that, I mean, also our young and hungry players, we know they want to win something with young boys. They want to have 2, 3 strong seasons, but we all know they want to play for bigger clubs, they want to play in bigger countries, and that's part of our game, and that's part of our strategy as well.
And you as a CEO, how do you see the club evolve in the coming years?
I think most important is that we have a stability in our executive board, in the board of directors, which is there for 2 years, and we have a great sports director, Christoph Spiecher. I would say it's key for us that we can keep him for many more years to come.
We call him the reflective head of the club, right? He's the one that reflects a lot, or?
Yeah, and he's the one who has a clear strategy, and he's responsible for the sports department on his own with his team. He's a big team player, but he took the great right decisions in the past. And I think, obviously, also know with the income from the Champions League, we can also follow other projects, and I think we want to be the #1 for young, hungry players in Switzerland, and that's a good position for us to be successful in the next years.
And looking at the coming weeks and months, what are the next tricky steps that you have to take? What's the challenges?
The next tricky step is for sure the transfer period in the winter, like we always have. Our great players that have played a great season. If you just look the goal scoring list of the Swiss League, and the first six players, there's 4 from our club. So we know that teams from the Bundesliga, from other countries, are interested in those players. So we have to try either to keep them, or if we can make a big transfer, obviously, and the player wants to go, sometimes that happens. But then we need to find new players. We have Stefan Chapuisat, former hero from Borussia Dortmund. He's a really great scout, and so I hope he has already some players in his mind that could replace then the players if we have those transfers.
Thank you very much, Wanja.
Thank you.